If you owned a PlayStation 2, Xbox, or a GameCube in 2003, there's a very good chance that you heard about a game called True Crime Streets of LA. The game tells the story of Nicholas King, an uncompromising Los Angeles police officer who is recruited into the Elite's Operation Division in order to investigate a series of bombings in Chinatown. As he delves further into the case, he discovers that it may be connected to the disappearance of his police officer father 20 years previously. Now, True Crime Streets of LA isn't the only game in this series. There's also a True Crime New York City, and some people might even recognize that Sleeping Dogs is pretty much True Crime Hong Kong. Today I'm going to be taking a dive into True Crime New York City and True Crime Streets of LA. I'm not going to be paying too much attention to the plot. This isn't really going to be a lesson on the plot and what happens in the story. It's more going to be about the development and a little bit about what happened to this franchise and why it no longer exists. True Crime Streets of LA is an open-world action-adventure game played from a third-person perspective in which the player controls Detective Nicholas King of the Elite's Operation Division. The game was one of the first non-Grand Theft Auto open-world adventure games released after Grand Theft Auto 3 in 2001. Because of this, it was labeled immediately a Grand Theft Auto clone, and as the core game mechanics are pretty similar to GTA, the player can also travel across the city freely, command their vehicles, and do pretty much whatever they want in terms of attacking and or killing innocent civilians. They can also progress through the storyline at their own leisure, spend as much time as they want around the city, and do pretty much anything they want. However, the only major difference between GTA and the True Crime series is that the player controls a law enforcement officer. Streets of LA included 4 mission types, each with their own very unique gameplay. There was shooting, fighting, stealth, and driving. In all the levels of the game, even if missions are failed, the storyline will continue, sometimes with a different opening cutscene for the next level, sometimes even with an alternate version of the level, occasionally by branching into an entirely different storyline. This is one of my favorite parts of the game, is that you can completely play it different every single time you played it. All of these different mission types had a little bit different mechanics than GTA. Like whenever you fight with your hands, the player has 4 main different attacks: the high kick, the low kick, punch, and grapple. Driving missions, you can either try to catch another car, escape from another car, or tail another car. At all times, even when the player is in a car, the car's condition is shown on the screen. The shooting missions were some of my favorite because of the precision targeting. Basically, whenever you were in this precision targeting mode, if the targeting reticule turns green, the player can hit the enemy with a neutralizing non-lethal shot. If the player fires when the reticule is red, the enemy will be killed instantly. Players can also take cover during shootouts, fire from behind cover, and do many similar things to a Grand Theft Auto game, but also a lot of different things that weren't really in the GTA game. So it definitely had its own identity, and it was a unique game, but it did follow some of those core mechanics from a GTA game. Players can access 24/7 facilities throughout the game to upgrade either their driving, fighting, or shooting abilities, but these facilities were only accessible if the player has an available badge. Badges were earned by acquiring enough reward points. Every 100 reward points is converted into one single badge. Entry into a 24/7 facility costs 1 badge, and the player must then complete a challenge to earn the upgrade. If they fail, they must spend an entirely different badge to try again. These points were necessary for a player to heal themselves at a pharmacy, have their car repaired at a garage, and the amount of points deducted depends on the level of damage in each case. The player also had a good cop / bad cop meter. If the player arrests criminals, solves crimes, shoots opponents with neutralizing shots, and knocks out rather than kills opponents in stealth missions, they will get good cop points. If however they kill civilians, shoot criminals in the head, use weapons in hand-to-hand combat, or kill enemies in stealth missions, they will then get bad cop points. At certain points in the game, the storyline will branch differently depending on whether the player has a good cop score or a bad cop score. The amount of good or bad cop points also plays a factor in determining the game's ending. The game was first announced on May 15th of 2002 when Activision revealed that Luxoflux were developing an original action racing game inspired by Hong Kong's action films. And according to Larry Goldberg, Executive Vice President of Activision Worldwide Studios, mission-based driving and action-adventure collide in this bold new direction for interactive entertainment. Infused with the unique flair of Hong Kong's action films, True Crime Streets of LA allows players to experience first-hand the car stunts, close calls, quick wit, and high action that are synonymous with this distinct style of cinema. Activision also went on to state that the game combined a gameplay of beat-em-ups, third-person shooters, and vehicle combat games. They also revealed that the game was over 400 square miles of Los Angeles and that the player would be able to visit multiple LA landmarks. Even with only 40% of the game complete, True Crime was first shown at the 2002 E3 event in May. In December, Activision showed a 60% complete version of the game, and they revealed that the game's Los Angeles had been reduced roughly to about 300 square miles. They also revealed that the game would have 3 completely different endings and that the player could play through the game multiple times, experiencing a different narrative and different levels every single time. They announced that the game would feature roughly 100 randomly occurring crimes that the player has the option of solving while driving around the city. The good cop and the bad cop system was also shown for the very first time, and although it was in a pretty rough state of development, the casting of Russell Wong as protagonist Nick Kang and Gary Oldman as the game's main villain was also announced. The game was next shown at the 2003 E3 event in May, and although it wasn't a final build, both IGN and GameSpot were pretty damn impressed. On October 22nd, they sent the final build of the game to gaming websites. They also announced that they had an exclusive licensing deal with Puma. Kang would be wearing several pieces from Puma's fall 2003 catalog, and the actual marketing director for Puma stated that video gaming is a phenomenon with a diverse appeal. From the skate kids to the hipsters and fashionistas, gaming is the common denominator to a widespread audience and a distinctive medium for Puma to utilize to interact with consumers. So pretty much everything seemed to be going in this game's favor. They were getting lots of support, they were doing very well, they were doing a lot of new things that people were very impressed with. But in late October of 2003, 2 weeks prior to the game's scheduled release of November 4th, novelist Robert Craze claimed that the game's protagonist Nicholas Kang was a direct copy of the protagonist of many Craze novels. The suit sought for an injunction to prevent Activision from shipping the game for undisclosed monetary damages and for the destruction of all infringing works. The lawsuit failed to prevent the scheduled release of the game, and on November 6th, Craze dropped the complaint entirely. After reviewing Luxoflux's development materials for the game, Craze was satisfied that the lead designer Peter Morowick had not copied the character of Kang from that of Cole, but was in fact a fan of Craze and was paying homage to his work. So whenever this game actually came out, how was it actually received? How did people react to it? Well, True Crime Streets of LA received generally favorable reviews. The PlayStation 2 version holds a 77 out of 100 based on about 39 reviews. The greatest strength of this Luxoflux game is the integration of story and the layers of game design into one cohesive package. However, he wrote the graphics, far too many clipping issues that come up far too often to be ignored. The camera ties into the clipping problem so that there will be times when the camera will float through and behind a wall or tree during a fight so that you can't see the action at all. He then concluded True Crime is an enjoyable game if you can clear your mind of Grand Theft Auto expectations. It's a lot of fun despite the burden of the camera system and other technical glitches. It doesn't nor should it replace Grand Theft Auto by any means. True Crime has enough good to counter the bad and stand on its own. To compare it straight to GTA is fair, but you have to also give the credit of them doing a lot of different things that GTA couldn't do. The game was a commercial success, and during its first 2 weeks on release in North America, it sold over 300,000 units across all platforms. And by July of 2006, the PlayStation 2 version had sold over 1.5 million units and earned $65 million in the United States. Ultimately, the game went on to sell over 3 million units across every single platform. At the 2003 Spike Video Game Awards, True Crime was nominated for 5 different awards: Best Action Game, Best Animation, Best Music, and the 2 Best Performance by a Human nominations, which were Christopher Walken as George and Snoop Dogg as himself. It won Best Action, but lost the other categories, but it did still really show how much this game actually did very well. This game was fantastic. I still remember playing this game when I was younger, just being completely obsessed with it, putting so many hours into it. While I didn't like the protagonist that much, I couldn't really relate to him, or he just wasn't likable maybe to me. I think the game was fantastic in pretty much every other aspect. So that was basically True Crime Streets of LA. There's probably some things that I missed out on there, but that was the most that I could possibly scrounge up without making it too long on its own. So let's get into talking about True Crime New York City. True Crime New York City is a 2005 open-world action-adventure game developed by the same studios Luxoflux for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. The game tells the story of Marcus Reed, a former New York City gang member turned police officer. On his first night on the job after receiving a promotion to detective in the organized crime unit, Reed witnesses the death of his mentor. Helped by an FBI agent who is investigating a mole in the OCU, Reed sets out finding about who killed his friend and bringing down the mole. The game features a 25 square mile recreation of the borough of Manhattan, with most street names, major landmarks, and highways reproduced with GPS accuracy. So I believe this game plays pretty much the same as Streets of LA. You can go to places at your own leisure, you can kill whoever you want, you can drive whatever car you want, you can buy these little different things, you can participate in mini games and side quests, you can buy a hot dog if you really want to. I think the major difference between this one and the other true crime is that I believe you might be able to take a public transportation in this game, and there were obviously some different mechanics that I will get into a little bit more in a minute, but for the most part it operated the exact same way. And I think you could also say that this was a GTA clone if you really wanted to. This game involved 3 different types of missions: shooting, fighting, and driving. Now all of these act pretty much the same way as the previous game, but one of the things I really remember from this game is that whenever you were driving, you can actually respond to random radio dispatch missions, and the other main difference is that unlike the first game, these crimes can now take place inside of buildings as well as on the streets. Additionally, the map is divided into 20 different neighborhoods, and whenever you solve a random crime in a particular area, the crime rate in that area drops, and after he has solved a set number of crimes in one area, that area is then considered clean, and crime rates will not increase in these areas. If Reed continues to ignore random crimes in a given area before it is clean, the crime rate will then increase, leading to stores closing, dirtier streets, boarded up buildings, more aggressive civilians, and resulting in more random crimes needed to clean up that area. Unlike Streets of LA, where the player could purchase upgrades at the cost of reward points, upgrades in New York City simply cost money, with no point system and no challenge in place. Upgrades became available for purchase as the player moves up through 5 grades of promotion, and money in the game can be earned legitimately by collecting wages, or illegitimately by selling evidence at pawn shops and or extorting business owners. The player also had a good cop / bad cop meter. If however they kill the civilians, shoot armed criminals in the head, fail to identify themselves as a police officer before opening fire, they get bad cop points. And just like the first game, that good cop or bad cop will affect the game's ending. The game was first announced on July 21st of 2004 when Activision's CEO announced plans for sequels to True Crime, Call of Duty, Spider-Man, Tony Hawk, Shrek, and Quake. However, nothing was actually heard about this game until about May of 2005 when Activision revealed that the game was so big, developers actually had to draft in staff from another Activision-owned developer, Z-Access. The game, under the title of True Crime 2, was unofficially scheduled for a third quarter release and was expected to be unveiled at the upcoming E3 event. On May 18th, Activision debuted a trailer for the game, and the trailer revealed nothing about the plot or the location but simply featured Marcus Reed arresting some criminals. But the cool thing was actually attached to the trailer. There was a competition called True Crime Guess the City. Players were encouraged to go to the game's official website and guess in which city they think the game is set. The competition's winner would eventually win a Chrysler 300, Reed's car, when the game begins. At the E3 event, Activision dedicated a large part of the booth of the upcoming game, but no footage was actually made available, nor was any plot information or even a title. The Chrysler available in the competition was present, as were DJs playing the songs which would be featured in the game, and all that was confirmed at E3 was that the game would definitely be released on current generation systems. On June 22nd of 2005, True Crime's official website revealed that the game would take place in New York City, with an image of Manhattan skyline appearing as the site's wallpaper. As part of the video game's launch, Puma announced that a unique sneaker mission within the game and the production of a special edition sneaker. In the video game, if players find all the True Crime RS100 sneakers throughout the city and return them to real New York City retailers featured in the game, the player then unlocks an exclusive Puma outfit for Reed. In addition, players could purchase the limited edition True Crime RS100 sneakers within the same New York City stores in the real world. On September 26 of 2005 though, Raymond Kelly, a New York City Police Commissioner, and Patrick Lynch, president of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association of the City of New York, called for a boycott of the game, citing its depiction of law-breaking officers as a damaging and offensive act. In an interview with the New York Daily News, Kelly stated that it's an outrage. I think it disrespects all police officers, and although the game was made in conjunction with 2 former NYPD detectives actually working on the game, Kelly stated that it's totally inappropriate, it's a tough job, a dangerous job, and this undermines what police officers try to do. Obviously, the game never got boycotted. It did release, but that didn't save the reputation of True Crime New York City. True Crime New York City received mixed and average reviews across every single system, and holds about a 60 out of 100 for every single platform. Some of the things that were said positive about the game: duties as a cop are tied into the game, working well alongside your own personal investigations, and finding the gameplay and game mechanics superior to Streets of LA. Some main criticisms were that it doesn't really take any risk, and it doesn't feel like it's an altogether new gaming experience. However, someone wrote that true crime strengths lie in the solid ways that everything is put together. It's a solid title through and through, but you won't find a whole lot of water cooler moments in there. If you're tired of the whole GTA thing and want more substance, this may not be the game for you. For everyone else though, True Crime New York City is definitely worth checking out. Some people were more critical again of the pop-up in the game. The characters are pretty screwy, with an entirely mismatched low-res models filling in some of the characters. The shadows would pop in and out of view, camera movement during cutscenes would cut out at odd times or display the wrong angle for a split second, and there was this on and on and on about some of the technical issues with this game. Some people loved it, some people didn't really like it. Did it do enough to earn a third game? Well, that's unfortunately where this series ends. True Crime did not sell well, falling considerably short of Activision's expectations, and in North America, Streets of LA sold over 300,000 units, and New York City had only sold 72,000 units in its first 2 weeks. But True Crime New York City was originally intended to have been the first part of a two-part series set in New York, but the second part was never actually made because of the poor sales. Due to the game's critical and commercial failure, Activision dropped plans for any future True Crime games. By the end of 2007, they approached United Front Games to develop an open-world game for next-generation consoles set in Hong Kong. Originally called Black Lotus, the game went into production in early 2008, and a year into development, Activision proposed that Black Lotus would be incorporated into the True Crime franchise due to the similarities in their designs and plots. Activision hoped that this idea could actually revitalize the True Crime franchise, and at the 2009 Spike Video Game Awards, they actually debuted the game as True Crime Hong Kong. In May 2010, Activision announced that the game had been pushed back to early 2011 in order to give the development team more time to deliver high-quality entertainment experience they envisioned for the game, claiming that due to quality issues, further investment would not be possible for this game to compete in an open-world genre. He expressed his disappointment with Activision's decision, stating that the game was playable from start to finish and virtually complete in terms of content. In June, Activision's CEO explained that an escalating budget and development delays were the main contributing factors to the game's cancellation. He also stated that the increase in budget and delays meant that the game would have to be a pretty incredible success in order to be worth the investment, due to the completion posed by other titles, particularly Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, and the fact that the previous game in True Crime series has been a critical and commercial failure. Activision's view on the game would not be able to be complete. However, in August, Square Enix acquired the publishing rights to the game, and although they did not buy the rights to True Crime franchise, the game was renamed to Sleeping Dogs and released in August of 2012, and in December of 2014, Activision abandoned the True Crime trademark completely. So as you guys can tell, this series has been down and out. It started off really strong. I guess they just didn't do enough with True Crime New York City. Even though I personally really enjoyed the game, I enjoyed both of these games so much. And it was just one of my favorite games of all time. I felt like they both did really great jobs on portraying that RPG element to where you feel like you're actually playing as a cop. It gave you plenty of content to actually do. But I guess as a little kid, I really didn't pay attention too much to graphical and technical issues. So I definitely understand why people had a problem with it. I actually did play Sleeping Dogs pretty recently, maybe like a year ago. And I thought that was fantastic. I definitely got the true crime mechanics from it. I definitely felt like it could have been a true crime game. Although I would like to see another true crime game, I just don't think it's ever going to happen. But let me know what you guys think about this series. Let me know what you think about these games. Let me know which one out of the series was your favorite. And also, if you enjoyed the video, just maybe drop a like and maybe subscribe. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and have yourself a good day.